Welcome to Marcor Studios, where here we will be interviewing different industry professionals and educating our homeowners as well as the industry as a whole. We hope you enjoy the show. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us at Marcor Studios. I am here with Trisha Devine from BAW Insurance. Thank you for being here today. Fortunately, I actually got to know you on a personal level last year when we fought for Long Island Fight for Charity, and I got to throw some punches at you.
Yeah.
You got to throw a couple back at me, so we had some fun with that together. But as we got to know each other on a personal level, we knew what each other did, but we really actually never got into like what it is that you do with insurance. So can you share with us a little bit about like how you got into the insurance industry?
So I work at Brewster Allen Witcher, which is located very close to here in West Islip. My father was actually the one that introduced me to the insurance industry. He had done insurance for a number of years and then had transitioned into restoration. So when I started with BAW, I'm very fortunate. That's an agency that they've been around since 1989. My boss has seen every type of just, whether it's a claim scenario, the different obstacles that you do face writing any type of policy for that matter. So I'm very fortunate to kind of have somebody on all ends of the spectrum when it comes to writing a policy and dealing with the claim scenarios. But what we do specialize in is your personal lines insurance, which is your homeowners, your auto, that could be your flood insurance, renter's insurance, landlord insurance, umbrella insurance, and then also the business insurance or your commercial insurance. So that's everything from your commercial property, your commercial general liability, your workers' comp insurance, errors and admissions, or your malpractice, so to speak. So we do.
Do you see that like right now, I mean, obviously insurance has been like a big topic. Are you seeing that like that people want to spend the bare minimum, so they're like cutting certain things from their insurance, or they're underinsuring themselves and kind of, unknowingly or knowingly exposing themselves to improper coverages? Like, can you explain a little more what you're facing right now?
100% and all day, every day. I think a lot of the times when somebody goes to get an insurance policy, regardless of what line it is, they want the cheapest premium. The most expensive type of insurance policy is the one that's not going to cover you when you need it to. So, I mean, especially when you're talking about, commercial insurance, I'm not an expert in the construction industry or any other industry for that matter, other than insurance. So I need to know your daily operations and what are the things that you're worried about. A lot of people are very quick to kind of bypass certain coverage options just because they don't want to pay for it.
Yep.
We live on Long Island. I mean, you know how many people say, I don't need flood insurance? We live on an island.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, you say like, with the most expensive policy, people think, oh, I'm spending all this money, and they don't know if they have the right coverage. I was talking to a guy who happens to do roofing the other day, and he's like, I spent $100,000, I'm covered. And sure enough, we had a broker go through it, and he was not covered. And he had exclusions for subcontractors. He's like, but I have an umbrella policy for that. And the broker was like, bud, you got nothing at this point. If you don't have the right liability coverage to kick in, your umbrella's excess. So can you elaborate a little bit more on like how is it just that people don't want to spend money, or are they just not educated to know how does it, from a business standpoint, how does it affect a homeowner? Or, even just, what we're facing in the auto industry right now too is crazy, because that does affect every business.
It's a combination of both. Of course, everybody wants to get the most cost-effective policy for their business operations. There is no policy that's going to cover you 100%. And there's always going to be some type of gap in coverage there. But again, like you just mentioned, you were speaking to another roofer. He's using subcontractors. That's where any policy that we're talking about, there's always going to be terms and conditions that are going to say, this is your part of the agreement. Mm-hmm. We're willing to cover you, if you do this and that, like all the rules, the terms and conditions, but there's always going to be exclusions.
Yeah.
What people fail to do, I think a lot of the time, and again, this goes across the board with any policy we're talking about, watch out for what those exclusions are, because you don't want to be a roofer that gets involved in another operation And you don't realize that your subcontractors needed to have a certain amount of coverage in order for your coverage to even kick in.
So what do you recommend to our listeners on how do they, you got this 200-300 page policy and they don't know what they're looking at.
And they're not going to read it.
Exactly. And they're not going to read it. What do you recommend people can do to be able to navigate this and understand, am I getting the right insurance? Am I not? Like, you have to, do you not trust your broker? Like, no, you're not questioning your broker necessarily, but some people just write a piece of paper and some people are actually caring about understanding your operation and insulating you. How do you recommend that, even an average homeowner or anyone who owns a car or in any form of insurance that they really make sure that they have the right insurance? How do they do that?
So the only way that they can really, reassure that they are having all of these, topics that you just brought up, just to make sure that you do have coverage for it, if the coverage is even available. But you have to be aware of the areas self-insure at, and you have to be aware of your exclusions that are going to be in this policy. And the only way that an insurance agent can really go about this, because I can't babysit every single client. I can't be in your house and walking around with you 24/7 with your business operation. So you got to really sit down. The one piece of advice that I would give everyone, and this is something that I've really been stressing with a lot of my clients, is reread that application, because the application that you sign off on, although everything that you do sign, you should read thoroughly, make sure you agree with what you're signing with. But that application is really your eligibility to even get coverage through that insurance company. So if there's a question that you're a little bit, hesitant on, and I don't know, that question is kind of, contradicting, I don't know how to answer that, you want to ask your agent. I'm not familiar with how to answer this, because I'll give you a perfect example. Some people have home businesses. Yeah. So, on your homeowner's application, they're going to ask you if you do business operations at home.
Yep.
Well, this is becoming a problem because now your neighbor just sold their house. Now the person moving in, Google that address. It's going to come up that there's a commercial operation next door to you. Now your neighbor can't get coverage. So it's like it definitely trickles on.
Effect.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
100%.
I mean, you know me. I know insurance a lot of parts. I didn't know that.
I'm seeing this left and right, and again, I'll go to bat, for the insured to the insurance company and the underwriters and say, like, look, nobody knows what this business is. I think this person just started an Etsy operation, during COVID. There's not a real, risk here as far as people coming in and out of the property, because that's what the insurance companies are concerned of on the homeowner side of it. They want to know, like, are there multiple clients coming in and out of this house all day long? That's the way they look at it. But again, on paper, you Google that address or you Google that business name, that pops up. That's a commercial operation next door, whether or not it's...
That's scary stuff. And you think about it, when it comes down to the application and what you tell the insurance company, and those applications follow you, because when you fill out another application for another insurance company, business operations, or your even, like I said, for auto or homeowners, things can change and everything's subject to change. But
that's also the thing, like
shifting to like homeowners, like let's talk homeowners insurance. We do a lot of work, solar panels, things like that. I mean, can you talk to us about what happens? Like, what do homeowners have to do if they get solar panels? What do you recommend? Do they have to call and notify their insurance company?
100%. You're definitely going to want to let your insurance company know that these panels were put on the roof, because if you just put $30,000 worth of equipment, meaning the solar panels, onto the roof, that's going to factor into the home's replacement cost. Because let's just say that there is, a loss at said home and they didn't know about that additional $30,000. Why should the insurance company actually turn around and say, hey, we're going to pay that out, we're going to replace these solar panels now? They didn't know about it. The other caveat to that is majority of people that are getting solar panels, and majority of companies, at least this is the way they should be running it, is you need to have a decently new roof.
Yes.
Before you put that on. So you're actually, if you didn't tell your insurance company when you got a new roof, or if it's happening at the same time you're getting those solar panels, it's a pretty heavy discount the insurance company is going to give you just for having a new roof. Obviously, the newer the roof, the less likely it's going to sustain damage during a storm or said claim. So, they might tack on, a certain amount as far as the replacement cost, but that discount you're going to get for the new roof is going to be a lot less, most likely a lot. That discount is going to take off more money from your policy than the cost of adding the cost of the solar panels on. So it's definitely worthy of having a conversation with your insurance company.
So are you seeing that people, when they get a new roof, that if they're notifying their insurance company, they're getting discounts?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's good
Hands
to know.
down. That's one of the most important updates on the home that the insurance company is concerned
because it's definitely it's a huge liability as well. Now you bring up, the roofing and the solar side of things, which obviously is my world. What is your take on, what are you seeing in the insurance industry where on homeowners insurance policies, where are you seeing insurance companies for when the solar companies that knocked on someone's door, let's say 5-10 years ago, they knocked on the door, they sold them solar, and now all of a sudden there's an issue or, that the roof is actually 25 years old and they should have never put the solar on to begin with. What are you seeing from an insurance perspective?
So that's a very tricky situation because a lot of the times, let's just say there is some type of leak or that's happening through the solar panel. Now there's solar panels on it. Now there's a leak. Now it's affecting the interior of the home. It's coming through, right? So again, if the insurance company never knew that these solar panels were put on, that could present an issue. Hidden and prior damage is not going to be covered to a certain extent. And especially if they're finding out that this roof really should have been replaced before those solar panels. Just because you're paying the premium for insurance policy doesn't mean the insurance company is going to turn around and say, oh, well, that's our problem. They're going to look back at it and say, who installed that?
Yep.
You used a faulty contractor. That doesn't mean the insurance company should pick up.
Yeah, I mean, they're not an insurance company for the workmanship side of things.
Correct.
But now are you seeing, we're seeing a lot on our side of the insurance companies. Let's say somebody put solar panels on 5-10 years ago, and it was at the time a 20 or 25-year-old roof, or it was a 3 or 4 layer roof, or even 2, which, here our local code is 3. What are you seeing with the insurance companies now? Like, are they dropping people or threatening to drop people to replace the roof? And now the homeowner's out of pocket to remove and reinstall that system.
Yeah.
For the solar system. Is that something you're seeing more common?
Yeah. I mean, insurance companies are turning around. For the most part, a lot of them are, right away. Again, back to that application. You fill out an application. Now, let's just say you just bought the house a year ago.
Okay.
And now you know nothing about the prior owner. They told you, oh, the roof is decently new.
Yeah.
It's within less than 10 years. All right. Well, we got to estimate that. There might not be a document out there that we can access.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean the insured, the homeowner, that's going to say, like, this is the exact date and this is who put the roof on, this is who put the solar panels on. That might not be available.
Yeah, for sure.
So at that point,
or they might not be in business anymore.
Correct, which does present a problem. I think this is where it really ties into some of the other industries, like the home inspectors and the appraisers, and
for sure,
even the realtors. I think that if you're selling somebody a house, I mean, I would turn around and say, hey, like, give me all the information that you know about any updates and when they were done to this house.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if it's a prior damage situation, you're not going to buy a house today and then turn around and say, well, there's issues that have been here for the last 10 years. Your insurance company's not going to cover that.
So with the rising rates that we're seeing on Long Island, and I know that whether it's auto, homeowners, people having, being underinsured, people not having proper coverage, where do you see the future of the insurance industry, whether it's for business insurance and homeowners insurance, auto insurance? Are you seeing that? I mean, insurance companies pulling out of here? Like, what's the solution?
So we're in a hard market right now. And when that happens, yes, it can be a little bit harder to obtain coverage at a cost-effective rate. So that's why a lot of people are paying these higher rates. However, because that we're in a hard market, what that really means is the insurance companies and their underwriting guidelines, they're tightening them.
For sure.
So they're saying, hey, we're not going to write every single person that was eligible a year or two ago. We're going to tighten those. We're going to say, hey, we want somebody with a roof that's less than 20 years old.
Yep.
They're going to make certain, adjustments to how they're going to underwrite the policies and determine your eligibility.
Yeah.
With that being said, we could all cross our fingers and hope that in the near future, this should kind of lessen up the amount of risk that the companies are taking on and the amount that they're paying out in claims.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of is. I mean, it's a loaded question because every quarter, the insurance companies will report their losses versus their profits, and that's kind of what it's all number based out of. Just like we pay insurance, the insurance companies have to pay insurance. So if they pay out a lot in claims, just know that cost, that premium, that's going to trickle down to the rest of us. We're all going to have to pay it.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm sure
self-insure at this point. That would be my advice is, take a look at your deductibles. Maybe save some on the front end of it when it comes to your premium, and just know if I raise my deductibles right now, be aware of what that means and what those deductibles and when they would be paid, what they're for, so to have that money in the bank account. That way you do suffer a loss. But bottom line is make sure you're comfortable with your insurance agent. Make sure that you're letting them know, hey, these are my fears. If this was to go wrong or if I was to lose this asset, I can't replace that on my own. And I would need to, rely on my insurance company. So that's another thing. So many people put in claims that aren't covered from the first place. And
or the
that's
frivolous little minor claims, that are the 10, 15, $20,000 claims. You want to prohibit those because it's not always just that you're filing claims. Insurance is there for a reason, but it's how many claims you're filing in a period of time, I would imagine.
That claim frequency. You can't turn around to me and tell me that you have 4 not-at-fault accidents within 5 years. Now you're just unlucky. So you know what? Insurance companies don't like unlucky either.
That's true.
And they also want to see, after a claim does happen, what did you do to prevent that from happening again? Was it completely out of control?
Yeah.
Or were you able to install certain water leak detection systems? Were you able to, what did you do?
Put in a French drain.
Correct.
Or did you, for your auto, did you put in a dash cam or anything like that? So
what are you doing to prevent this from happening further?
Yeah.
Or happening again?
Which is that I'd be back to what we started with is the application.
Yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you for coming and for all your information. And thank you for joining Marcor Studios.
Thank you for having me, Gina.
Thanks. And we look forward to our next episode.
So much more fun than a boxing ring.
Wow, you didn't like when I punched you in the face?
And safer.
I had fun punching you in the face. It was fun. It definitely was a good time.
I love you.
So.
I love you.